Senate passes CISA, Apple and Twitter report earnings, and Gamergate gets another life. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 454 for Tuesday, October 27th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Braintree. Looking to set up payments for your business? Braintree gives your app or website a payment solution that accepts just about every payment method with one simple integration. Plus, Braintree will give you the first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. To learn more, visit braintreepayments.com/technight. Welcome, I am Megan Morrone. Let's get to the tech news. Today, the Senate passed CISA, the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act. The bill, roundly criticized by privacy advocates and some tech leaders, passed the Senate with a vote of 74 to 21. The bill claims to be a tool that can be used against hackers, but many worry about the way it favors big corporations and government surveillance over personal privacy rights. The Electronic Frontier Foundation says the House of Representatives and the Senate are still in talks about the bill's final language, but they feel that not only is CISA fundamentally flawed, it doesn't even address the real cybersecurity problems that caused the Target breach, the U.S. Office of Personnel Management hack, and other attacks. Apple and Twitter released earnings today. Let's start with Apple. The company announced that in the latest quarter, they sold 48 million iPhones, 9.9 million iPads, and 5.7 million Macs. Once again, the company kept mum on Apple Watch sales numbers, but that other category where they put the Apple Watch posted $3 billion in revenue, which Apple admitted was partly fueled by the watch. All of Apple's numbers today add up to a quarterly revenue of $51.5 billion and a quarterly net profit of $11.1 billion, or $1.96 per diluted shares. International sales account for 63% of this quarter's revenue. Twitter's outlook was not so rosy. Users are still signing up, but at a lower rate each quarter, and this is a fact that makes investors very wary. Despite announcing third quarter revenue of $569 million, and that's up 58%, Twitter lowered expectations for the current quarter. This caused a nearly 12% drop in after-hours trading today. The South by Southwest Interactive Festival in Austin has canceled 2 Gamergate panels for its upcoming spring conference after receiving threats of on-site violence. The annual technology event had planned 2 panels, one pro and one against Gamergate, although the panels didn't mention the word Gamergate at all. In a statement about the cancellation, Hugh Forrest, director of South by Southwest Interactive, said that he had hoped that by presenting the 2 sides of the argument, the conference might lead to a valuable exchange of ideas. Many are complaining that by equating the two as different and equally valid sides of an argument, South by Southwest is ignoring or does not fully understand the very real and continuing online and offline harassment so many innocent people have received at the hands of so-called representatives of Gamergate or the ethics in game journalism movement, or however else they're vaguely defining themselves today. While I understand South by Southwest's efforts to keep the discourse civil and nonviolent, their choice to cancel both panels seems like a bit of a cop-out to me. The European Parliament has voted in favor of internet fast lanes and slow lanes, effectively rejecting amendments that would protect net neutrality. The Verge reports that the new regulations claim to establish an internet without discrimination, but the laws contain loopholes that would give specialized services an edge when it comes to speed. The laws also allows ISPs to designate products with 0 ratings. This, The Verge says, paves the way for internet companies to strike deals that could give apps the upper hand. Now, The Verge imagines a scenario where an ISP gives a 0 rating to something like Apple Music in order to eliminate competition from other streaming services like Spotify or Pandora. Coming up, a shatterproof phone and podcasts come to Android. But first, this episode is brought to you by Braintree, code for easy mobile payments. Maybe you're working on the next Uber, Airbnb, or GitHub, then why not use the same simple payment solution that helps them become what they are today? Braintree makes mobile payments fast, easy, and seamless. Add it to your app with just a few lines of code and you're instantly ready to accept Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards, even Bitcoin. And if some other way to pay comes along, Braintree will support that too. Braintree's fast payments and continuous support means you'll always be ready, whether you're earning your first dollar or your billionth. See fewer abandoned carts and more sales with Braintree's best-in-class mobile checkout experience. Braintree gives you a full-stack payment solution, support for all payment types your customers might want, single integration across all platforms with superior fraud protection, customer service, and fast payouts. To check it out for yourself, visit BraintreePayments.com/TechNight. Another day, another Android phone. Today, Verizon and Motorola announced the Droid Turbo 2 and the Droid Max 2. The Droid Turbo 2 is the droid you're looking for if you're prone to dropping your phone or forgetting to charge it. The device offers a shatterproof screen that Motorola guarantees for up to 2 years, and it features a 48-hour battery. Joining us to talk about these devices and a few other new toys that he's had his hands on is Jon Rettinger, President and Editorial Director of Techno Buffalo. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you for having me.
So I know you weren't at the event, but some of the people from Techno Buffalo were at the event. What do you think of these new droids?
Well, calling it shatterproof and indestructible, I know a lot of greasy hands who are going to put that to the test. But in theory, it's very cool. And one of the biggest complaints people have with their phones is, we're clumsy by nature and we throw them down the stairs. They accidentally drop in the toilet. So Verizon offering a phone that can sort of keep us from ourselves is potentially very cool.
Yeah, I handed over my Android phone, my last Android phone before I switched to iOS, handed it over to a 12-year-old who happens to be my daughter. She shattered it. We fixed it. She shattered it again. It was not shatterproof.
What was your last Android phone before you switched?
It was an S5, a Galaxy S5. So I was happy to see it go. I was not sorry to see it go, let's just say.
So the phones look cool. So they made it shatterproof in kind of a couple cool ways. They added some aluminum around it. And then there's a layer right below the screen that supposedly makes it a little more stronger and durable. But, I mean, it's probably more shatterproof than anything else out there. But calling it shatterproof, I think, is a bold claim from Verizon.
So at the event today, Motorola's CEO, he dropped it from his chest, from chest high. Nothing happened. But, I mean, I just wonder, I guess, like you said, YouTube is going to be just littered with people trying this, hopefully not failing.
It's going to go crazy. Can you imagine how nervous he must have been, though, when he dropped it and picked it up? Just like that split second of doubt. Like, what if it's broken? What's going to happen? Fortunately, it was okay. But, yeah, YouTube's going to go crazy on it. Aside from the supposedly shatterproof screen, you got some other pretty beastly specs. You've got a gigantic 60 million power battery, so it'll last a while. And you can put in an SD card up to 2 terabytes, which doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't exist yet. But when it does exist, you can pop it in and be good to go.
So this phone is $700, $699, of course. Who's gonna buy this? I mean, that's pretty expensive.
So that's I guess Verizon doesn't even do contracts anymore. So yeah, that's the price that you can pay it off in easy installments of $699 over 80 years. Expensive phone. And they're competing in very expensive flagship waters with the 6P, the Nexus 6P, with the iPhone 6S, with the Galaxy S6 and the S6 Edge Plus and the Note 5. There's a lot of competition in that premium market. And the only thing that seems very compelling about it, that price point, is the screen and just the gigantic beastly battery. But other than that, very few compelling reasons, I think, to jump into bed with Verizon and Motorola for this guy.
So you're not very excited about that, but here's a phone that you say you are a little excited about, the first Android-powered BlackBerry. It's now available for pre-order. It will start shipping on November 6th. It has a slide-out keyboard, 5.4-inch Quad HD curved display, a Snapdragon 808 processor. Who's this phone designed? This is the BlackBerry Priv. Who's this phone?
I'm excited. Megan, I'd wager you used a BlackBerry prior to 2007. Is that a correct assumption?
I did not. I never used a BlackBerry. I know, shocking, I had a flip phone. I was a big Palm user. A Palm Pre was what I was probably using in the BlackBerry days, maybe. And then, Android to iOS. So never been a BlackBerry user.
We can still be friends.
Okay.
But I got a soft spot in my heart for BlackBerry. It's what I was using prior to 2007 when the iPhone first came out. I had a BlackBerry Pearl and I loved it. BlackBerry's clearly lost their way over the years. They ignored the consumer market. I don't know if you remember, but back when the iPhone was launching, Android was first sort of finding its legs. If you wanted to buy a BlackBerry, you had to choose between either Wi-Fi or GPS. You could not have both. You had to pick a model that had one or the other. That's how far removed BlackBerry was for what their consumers, non-enterprise users, wanted. And they've been paying that price ever since. But they could be back with the BlackBerry Priv. It is an Android-powered phone, really thin, a 5.4-inch QHD screen with a full keyboard if you want it. It also has BlackBerry's really awesome on-screen keyboard that we've seen in some other BlackBerry 10 devices. But a really impressive high-spec phone. If you never slide the thing out, it still is a very thin 5.4-inch next-gen spec phone with 2 curved edges on the side. So if you like what Samsung's done with the S6 Edge and the S6 Edge Plus, you might want to give this guy a look when it hits start shipping November 6th.
So those curved edges, are they going to be used the same way that the Samsung curved edges are being used now?
Similarly, I think the best way the Samsung Edges get used is for looking ridiculously awesome. I mean, practical standpoint, it's of questionable utility, I think, for how useful they actually are. But we did have seen some leaked documents from the Canadian carrier TELUS that said it'll be used for battery charging, so you can see on the side how much battery you've got left when it's plugged in. Some quick apps, quick notifications, so you can see what's launching. You can see right there up on the screen. They're calling it Productivity Edge, where you can get quick access to things. But mostly, we can just put all that aside, mostly just because it looks really cool. I mean, the edges curve around the screen. It's the future. And it's on a BlackBerry, oddly.
So the past, the future, it's all coming together.
It's all coming together. One thing, though, if you don't want a physical keyboard, I know a lot of us have moved well past that. You can use a physical keyboard almost as a trackpad to scroll through text like you could on the BlackBerry Passport. So even if you don't, peck away on the keys, you can use it just to scroll through and make life a lot easier and save that thumb energy that you use for other devices when you're doing a lot of this action. So just another way to help navigate.
So Priv, at first when I heard that, I thought it was like maybe it's really more private. It's like a black phone that you can use for all your secrets. But that's not. Priv is just a name. It's not anymore.
No,
private.
It's based on privacy, and the reason the BlackBerry said didn't release an Android phone was they couldn't make it secure. And now they said they found a way to make Android secure. So it is kind of in the vein, actually, of that black phone that you mentioned. It brings the security of BlackBerry that people are used to with the app ecosystem and the familiarity of Android. So if you're looking for a phone that is presumably very secure, this actually might be a really good option.
All right. So in between the tinfoil hat and your average phone, somewhere in between.
I mean, I recommend the tinfoil hat probably. You just to make sure that no one's listening to your brainwave thoughts. But other than that, if you want to keep your email safe, the Priv is presumably a good way to go.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit. You were at the Apple event where they announced the iPad Pro. You got your hands on it. That event was a little while ago, but now we're getting closer to the rumored time that we get to order one. What are your thoughts on this device?
Yes, Apple says coming November, so I guess as soon as a few days from now. It's a gigantic iPad, and I have issue with it for one reason. The price and everything else aside, I love that they put a higher res screen on it. But Apple's claiming this is a tablet that can sort of do desktop class things, and it's a flagship for all tablets. Yet it doesn't have the latest Apple technology in it. There's no 3D touch found anywhere in this device, which is a tough pill to swallow for, I believe, a starting price of $800. And it makes me wonder if this is like not including a camera on the first gen iPad. They got to save something for Gen 2.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I wondered about that 3D touch. I automatically thought it would be there and then found out it wasn't, like you. And I wondered if it had something to do with the pencil, like it doesn't also work. Or I think, yeah, we'll see, I guess. Are you going to get one?
Yeah, we'll get one to review, but it's a big miss, I think, for Apple. And presumably it's because the panel's so big, and to get the Force Touch working on a panel that large probably would have been very expensive. I understand that. But it seems sort of strange to release a tablet that you're claiming as a flagship that has all the latest technology in it that doesn't have the latest technology that your company has out. It just seems like a very glaring omission to me. Not to mention it's big. It's a 10-inch tablet. Or excuse me, a 12-inch tablet. Yeah. So it's 2 inches bigger than the iPad Air 2. So, imagine that on an airplane or something and bear that in mind. Although not as big as the rumored Samsung 18-inch, it was the Galaxy View almost monstrosity that should be coming in a few weeks if the rumors are true.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, we're going to get one into the iPad Pro, and it's true because now that I have 3D Touch on my 6S, I try to 3D Touch my iPad all the time, like my iPad Air. I'm just already trying to 3D Touch it, trying to 3D Touch everything, and nothing happens. So I'm sure I'll be doing the same with the iPad Pro.
Yeah, and imagine if you had just spent $1,000 on this flagship tablet, and you're looking at your calendar, and you want to make a new appointment ordinarily, do a little 3D touch action, pops right up, and you're just pecking at this thing, wondering where your money went. I do not expect the first gen iPad Pro to be a gigantic seller.
And so they're apparently not making many of them. They're supposed to be a rumored limited supply. What do you make of that?
So maybe the economist in me is saying they're still going to find that middle point of supply and demand curve by releasing just a few. I don't think people are lining up around the corner to pick up the iPad Pro. So releasing just a few is probably Apple's sort of limited release, trying to build up hype. But I think if you go in on launch day, you'll probably be able to get one if you want to spend that kind of money for it.
Okay, so I don't need to send my iPad robot in to wait in line for me, is what you're saying?
I mean, it would still make a great story. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could see it on the cover of some of the tabloids. But aside from a cool story, leave the robot at home. Let your 12-year-old have fun with it.
Okay. So, Jon Rettinger, thank you so much for joining us. I did have one more question about the Surface Book and the you played with the Surface Book and you played with the Surface Pro. Where does that?
Actually, right behind me.
Where does
I'll bring it.
Close enough within arm's reach. That's a good sign always. And how do you like it? And how do you think that fits in with the iPad Pro in that marketplace?
Yeah, so we just did our review of the Surface Pro 4, and I absolutely loved the Surface Pro 4. Incredible tablet and surprisingly powerful computer. And the keyboard, the type cover that goes with it, is much more useful than last generations. Something like this at a similar price point of the iPad Pro makes me scratch my head as to why people would buy an iPad Pro. And I get that not everybody's in the Windows ecosystem, maybe doesn't want to give Windows 10 a shot. But just as a sheer bang for your buck, you're getting a full desktop operating system versus iOS. You're not even getting OS 10 El Capitan on the iPad Pro. The Surface Book is very cool in practice. The problem with it, though, is in the hinge. The hinge is very loose. So if you have it using a traditional laptop and trying to use a touchscreen, there's a lot of flex. If you have it turned the other way in presentation mode and trying to use the Surface Pen on it, there's a lot of give and take. Cool design. I'd hold off on that one, though, on the Surface Book. I'd wait probably till Gen 2 or 3 till they get that hinge tightened up.
Excellent. So all these articles are at Techno Buffalo. Jon, you're the president, editorial director. Tell us the mission of Techno Buffalo.
We're the voice of the consumer. We're not owned by any conglomerate. We're just us guys and girls that love technology. And, we advocate for the consumer. We give our opinions as if we were buying them ourselves. All our reviews give a buy, don't buy, wait recommendation. So we just have a passion for technology and love to share it.
Well, thank you so much. Jon is at Jon4Lakers with the number
horrible
4
Twitter handle
on Twitter. I'm sure you can get another one if you really think it's horrible. And technobuffalo.com. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
And finally, tonight, your search for the perfect Android podcatcher might be over. Google says soon you'll be able to download podcasts directly from Google Play Music. Podcasters can begin uploading now, and Google Play users will be able to start enjoying podcasts in a few weeks. Our Twit podcasts are already there, so you can listen to them as soon as the new service goes live. Now, there's no saying that Google Play Music will deliver podcasts any better than the Android podcatcher you use now, or any better than the Apple Podcast app works on iOS. But it seems to me that the mission of the podcasts on Google Play Music isn't about making a better experience for you that's listening right now, or for me. It's for helping find the people who don't listen to podcasts right now and to convince them what they're missing. Speaking at Recode, Elias Roman, product manager for Play Music, said Google plans to deliver podcasts that fit your interests, activities, and moods. In other words, it's going to take everything it already knows about everyone and use that information for the most laudable goal ever, to help them find more podcasts. And that's it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. We are on YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, and soon Google Play Music. You can also subscribe to this show at twit.tv/TN2. You can write to us at tn2@twit.tv and watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Morrone. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.